2 years ago, when North Korea said that they were going to be opening up for tourists, I thought they just meant in terms of opening up the capital, Pyongyang. But it seems that indirectly they also meant in a military sense. North Korean troops are now in Europe, and the USA has confirmed that. There's been a bit of back and forth for some time. Ukraine and South Korea have been saying for the last few weeks that North Korean troops were going to Russia to be trained and then put on the front line to fight in Ukraine. The Western powers like NATO countries and the USA were like, whoa, 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 hold on a second, let's have a look. I can't see any. But then Ukraine provided some video evidence of North Korean soldiers being trained in what seems to be a boot camp scenario, and the South Korean service said, listen guys, the North are literally my neighbours. We know what they're up to. We've been watching them for years. The numbers have fluctuated in terms of predictions. Originally, Ukraine was saying roughly 10,000 North Korean troops were expected to arrive on the front line. South Korea kind of agreed with that number and then raised it up and said actually it's going to be 12,000. But then they're saying it's happening bit by bit. And at the moment, the number of North Korean troops in Russia is merely 1,000 or two. I think what's interesting here is the branding. Storm Corps, that is the first foreign army contingent coming into Russia from another country, essentially. It's a foreign power. And yes, I can hear you already screaming from behind your screen, what about NATO? What about Ukraine getting other countries involved? And while Ukraine has indeed brought in weapons from NATO countries, albeit with one arm tied behind its back, we haven't yet seen troops being put on the ground at such a level as Russia is doing with North Korea right now. There were talks of it, don't get me wrong. Earlier on in the year, France tried to scare Russia a little bit by saying that they would put French troops on the ground, NATO forces in Ukraine. But even then, that was talk of putting NATO forces in Ukraine to defend Ukraine. Ukraine is not part of Russia. We weren't talking about putting NATO forces in Russia. But what we're looking at now is we're looking at a country, that's Russia, bringing in a foreign army to invade another country, Ukraine. That is being seen by many in the West, including NATO, as a significant escalation. It's an escalation for two reasons. One, it opens the door for foreign intervention. The USA, for example, has been providing money and weapons to Ukraine, but they've been saying use it on Ukrainian soil. Don't go over the line. Don't use those missiles on Russian territory because you would be escalating the conflict. But Russia is now saying, forget that rule. Do what you must, North Korea. Go over the border and cause havoc. And that now sets a new precedent. It would potentially give the USA and other NATO countries a green light. It will say to them, you know what, Russia's doing this anyway. If we send NATO forces into Russia to defend against Ukraine, we're not doing anything new. We won't be escalating the war. Russia has already pressed that button. The other issue is because of the country that is being involved. North Korea. Now, if we step away from Europe for just 1 second, there is a big conflict going on in Asia with North Korea and South Korea. It has spanned decades, and it is mostly unresolved. If you go to the DMZ, that's the little bit between North Korea and South Korea, it is still a buffer zone. It is still an unresolved piece of land where a war is still likely to break out. And what we're seeing now is the North Korean side being given money, potentially weapons, by Russia. And South Korea are saying, whoa, 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 you are strengthening my enemy, Russia. What is going on here? South Korea are basically saying here, whoa, Russia, you are giving my enemy power. You are giving my enemy strength, and you are even in talks of giving my enemy potential technology for satellite launches, for rocket launches. And you know what you can do with technology on a rocket launch? You can launch a nuclear warhead across the border. Let's not forget that North Korea is a nuclear power. It does test missiles, and it threatens the South Koreans with a nuclear strike. One of the things that has held it back from being so deadly is its lack of technology. Often the rockets go wrong, they fire in the water, they don't go in the direction that they are intended to. But with Russian money and Russian intel, that could change. And South Korea are saying this is unacceptable. The South Koreans are livid, and they have said that if Russia is going to strengthen the North Korean army and put them into a foreign war, then what's to stop the South Koreans doing the same thing? Maybe, South Korea has said, maybe they should go to Ukraine as well. Maybe they should start fighting back the North Koreans. And what we're seeing here is not just an escalation on the European side, we're seeing an escalation on a global scale. The Ukrainians are already saying that this has the makings of a global conflict. Multiple parties from multiple countries getting involved in one spot, and multiple interests colliding. For the time being, Putin's ambition with putting North Korean troops into Russia is, well, they claim not at all. They've said there are no North Korean troops, but it will be to take back the Kursk region, which is actually Russian territory. The Russians have covered themselves, though, in order to pretend the North Koreans are not in Russia or Ukraine. They have been given false identities, false papers, false passports from the Siberian region. At the moment, it is probably too little, too late for Russia. Many experts suggest that in order to push the Ukrainians out of Kursk, they will need at least 50,000 more troops. North Korea's 10,000 won't yet make a difference. But other experts do say that one of Russia's defining strategies in this war is just putting in the numbers, wearing Ukraine down, wasting Ukraine's bullets. And if Russia is running out of troops, North Korea's loan of new troops could indeed cause some shift in the war. At the moment, the North Korean army coming in to help Russia is not yet the defining moment where things escalate for the worse, but it certainly opens the door to more escalation.